Hey, Katrina here from Scrappy Horses. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. And if you've not been here before, well, you're sort of stumbling into the middle of a series I'm doing about scrapping or art journaling some of my favorite music. And today it's the song This Is Me from The Greatest Showman. So let's go ahead and move on into a very quick trip to Design Space just to see what I laid out. I've started with some papers from Polkadoodles and added some of the ephemera, did a print and cut, and then added ephemera from Belle Papillon and went ahead and print and cut those. And then, of course, my Digi, which is Heart Adela. I thought she was perfect for this page. Now, I told you that our trip through Cricut Design Space was going to be quick, and it was. Here are all of the pieces that I print and cut. Just some little butterflies, some of the lyrics that I didn't put on the page because I wanted them to be separate. And some more little pieces of ephemera from Belle Papillon, which is from Polkadoodles. And here is Heart Adela and a little pentagon shape and the background papers. This is my journal that I made especially for this project for this summer. And this is one of my prior layouts, games people play. And I'll leave a link below if you want to go check that out if you haven't seen that yet. I am sticking some frame board or really heavy art board and a sheet of scrap paper behind my page because I'm going to be inking this onto the borders of my pages. So I'm using a little Memento ink along with this stamp from Close to My Heart. It's long retired. And I'm just going around all of the edges of both pages. I'm not worrying about the coverage. I'm not worrying that parts of it are darker than others because I'm going to be coming in, for example, with this decorative tape, and I'm also going to be inking the right side, which is a lighter color. I'm going to be coming in with cashmere ink and inking over the edges of that page to match it up with the left side. I'm not really too worried about any of that. It's all just background. I'm bringing in the actual pages and I've already started distressing this. I decided I wanted it to be very distressed, showing sort of a big rip in the side so that something can go underneath that and peek out. And what I chose was Christmas ribbon. Right, I gave it away. It actually is Christmas ribbon. It's black with gold script and it says Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and such. I could actually place it in there so that you really couldn't tell what it said. All you really see is just black with gold script. So I thought that was going to be perfect. I adhered it with my tape gun here, as you can see. That may not be the most permanent way to adhere something in your book. However, I knew that I was going to be coming in with some heavy-duty double score tape as well as glue over the top of it, so I wasn't concerned. And here I am coming in with that double-sided score tape. And I'm just going to put that around the edges, and then I'll be adding some glue over the top. Now, for those of you who watch my videos, you know that I love fabric tack and that's my go-to. However, in this book I've been using, I believe it's Aleene's glue, and it's okay. I'm not in love with it. I feel like it almost sort of warps the paper sometimes. But it's not bad. It's okay for this project, I think. I'm still a firm believer in fabric tack. I love it. I just wasn't able to get it recently, so I ended up getting this glue instead. All right, I'm working really hard to get that page glued down into the crease there into the fold of the book, and it ends up not being real good. So I'll show you how I fix that later. I have removed the double-sided tape liner from the outside edge here, and I'm just throwing in some of this gold thread. No rhyme or reason, it's just sticking off the edge. Again, if you've seen any of my books that I make, I just love things sticking out of books. I like that. I like that look. So I thought, well, this would be fun, just to have random loops of thread hanging off this page. And it's something I hadn't done before. It just hit me that, hey, I could do that. And so I did. Adding a little bit of that glue, and we're going to go ahead and lay this page into the layout. And this is where I'm not liking the way it's laying in. So I've decided to come in with some doubled embroidery floss, black embroidery floss. I end up tying off a little gear to the top of it, and it sticks out the top of the book and hangs over the back of the book a little bit, and then the tails of it stick out below. And if you didn't notice that in the pictures at the beginning, you definitely can see it at the end. I just put a little teeny tiny bit of glue down the center between the two pages, and it worked out very nicely. Time to work with that pentagon shape. I decided that I wanted to add a little embossing powder to this just to give it texture and a little bit of color besides just stark black. I wasn't really sure what I wanted the shape to symbolize. I realized it looks a little like a tombstone. I was actually just looking for a shape that was a little different and came up with this. I'm using some Stampendous champagne colored embossing powder that I've had in my stash forever, like 10 years or something. So while we're watching the magic happen, I'll tell you a little bit about this song. There are lots of great recordings of this piece. One of my favorite new recordings, well, it's not a new recording, but new to me recordings, is the recording of their first read-through of this piece, where they all met up in New York and actually put this together for the very first time. Incredible recording, and I'll link it below so you can take a look at it, because if you're into this musical, you're going to love that recording. All right, back to the art piece itself. I'm just simply coming in and distressing some of the different pieces. You'll notice that I use a distressing tool for some of it. I rip some of it. I use ink on the edges. Some of it I just dip the pieces into the stamp pad. Other pieces I use a sponge. There I'm using my fingernail just to sort of grunge up the outsides. I started to go for the butterflies and decided, no, there's something different I'd like to do with those. And so I took these little butterflies and I just dipped their little wingtips into this embossing stamp pad. Then I'm going to come in and I'm going to sprinkle over some gold embossing powder. And I'm just hitting the very edges of the wings that were had some color on them anyway. And I'm just trying to hit those very edges. Then I'm going to come in with my heat gun and emboss that gold. Now you saw also that I keep my gold embossing powder in a Tupperware, and I just spoon it over, and then I don't have to mess with folding paper and all of that. All right, time to start assembling all these different little pieces. I came in with some glue, with the tacky glue, and I just started putting them in place. I want you to take note of the Lacey glittery ribbon there. That was a piece of wired ribbon, and I cut it, I ripped it. I've got little itty bitty pieces left that I'm going to be putting around the layout, and I kept that piece of wire. You can see it up there in the ice cream lid. And it's important to take note that I kept that wire because I used it later for my butterflies. So you will see that in just a little while. Here I am putting in that little piece of lace that I had torn off. That lace was hard to tear too. I have to say that was some pretty well-made stuff. All right, I'm pulling in my E6000. This is an old tube of E6000, but I could get it to work well enough to get some of it out and on this key. It was kind of a little dried up. And in fact, you'll see later I pull a new tube of E6000. I don't do enough mixed media to use a big tube of E6000. So I buy them in this little size. That way I'm not wasting a lot when it does go bad before I have a chance to use it all. I'm going to go ahead here and add the little pieces here of the lyrics that I did separately. And I end up, if you notice from the beginning or when you get to the end of the video and we look at the pages again, you'll note that I picked that up and moved that little piece of ribbon and put it over the top. I just didn't like the way it was sticking up right there. It bothered me for some reason. So I just took it out and moved it. And again, you'll see that later on. In these shots, you can see the really faint little clocks I have on that left-hand side. All right, I reshot this part of the video because it was just too hard to see what I was doing. And I'm actually using a larger bead. I'm going to take my piercing tool and I'm going to wrap that wire that came from that lacy ribbon that I pulled out of the edge. I'm going to wrap it around my piercing tool at the thickest or fattest part of that tool, the metal part. Now I'm going to take the entire tool and twist it. This will actually twist the two pieces of metal together. Now I remove it and I'm going to pick up these beads. You can see the little circle that I have there on the end. And that's going to keep those beads from slipping off the edge. So now I'm going to pick up these little beads one by one here and line them up. I used about 6 of those little gold beads, and you can see up there on the left-hand side how little that gold bead is compared to these beads. It was really hard to see in the video, so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to re-record this so that you can actually see it. All right, so now I have the beads in place, and I will again twist another little circle to hold those in place. This circle is going to be a little bit smaller. Now, I will add, if I were doing this for jewelry or a piece that had to stand alone, these beads would never stay there, probably. But I knew that I was going to take E6000 and I was going to glue it all into the book. So I knew that it was, or I felt that it was going to probably stay in place. Now I'm making a little butterfly tail, trail, whatever we want to call it, just by wrapping around and getting just sort of a wrapped look there. And when I lay it down, I realize it's hard to see right now, but when I lay it down on the paper, you're going to be able to see then what we have. So here's a close-up of what it's going to look like. You just have to envision it with the little gold beads. No envisioning necessary. Here it is. All right, we're going to come in with some of that wonderful E6000. And here it is again on that little piercing tool. Now, let me just say, I love my piercing tool. I use it to pierce things. I use it to apply glue. I use it to pick up beads. I use it to slide little pieces under other pieces. I use it to hold things in place as I do my heat embossing. I just use it for a lot of things. I can't even imagine crafting without it. So now that I'm done singing the praises of my piercing tool, you can see that my butterfly is complete. And now I've brought out a new tube of E6000, and I'm just going to apply a little gold jump ring in this mix of ephemera and goodies. Hey, thanks for joining me today. It's been kind of a crazy but fun layout, a little chaotic with all the different kinds of pieces and such, but it's that kind of song. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Leave me comments or questions in the box below. If you do art journaling to music, I would love to see your entries into your books. Leave them below for me so I can come visit you and I can see them, because I would very much enjoy that. And I will continue to share some of mine. So here are these last pictures, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.